Hey, this is Stuart Smith from STUARTIZM Designs. It's been 48 hours. I didn't paint it the next day, but we have our video up of making multiple skulls, half skulls. Then we have our video up of creating what we term as a lump of goo. And now we have the lump of goo sitting here ready to be painted. One thing we have to remember is we used a mold release inside the molds to pull the individual skulls. We don't have to worry about what we poured around it, but we have to worry about the actual skulls themselves. That mold release has to be taken off or use materials that it's not going to bother. You just can't go with water-based paint onto this concoction here until we do something to take care of that mold release. So let's see what it looks like. She's going to be ready to rock. She was going to be gorgeous, by the way. We're going to go with a rock formation. This particular piece would look fantastic in a graveyard. Pile some dirt around it. There you go. Voila. So let's get to our materials. I have something called Duplicolor Adhesion Promoter. Now, we use this for automotives when I'm doing bikes. Put this on plastic parts. And this can be located at local O'Reilly's or auto places. And we're going to hold that off for a second though, because we have our denatured alcohol. Denatured alcohol is what we're going to want to use to rub this down first. It's going to take care of any dirt or grime, and it is going to attack the mold release a little bit. So let's get that started. All right, clean rag and gloves. Make sure we're in gloves. This stuff it's not a totally nasty caustic chemical, but it will leach the oil out of your skin. And that's no fun when she starts to crack. So we're gonna just wipe her down. Okay. And just be liberal with it. The beautiful thing about this particular the denatured alcohol and its properties is it dries really fast. So we're just going to go over pretty much anywhere where the actual original skull that came out of the mold is there. You don't have to worry about some of the other areas, but we're just trying to take off as much as that mold release as we possibly can. And then we're going to have our adhesion promoter, which is going to help us do the rest. These things, a lot of times when I produce, they're going outside, and we want them to last as long as possible. They will last forever, but depending on where I go, I do a lot of work for a Sloss Fright Furnace, and I've been doing the graveyard the last so many years, and they've held up really nice. Except when we come into the area of your actors and helpers, they just kind of throw the things around because they didn't pay for it, somebody else did, so let's just destroy them. If these are handled properly, then they won't get damaged. So this right here is going to be pretty much good. We're going to let this sit here and dry. Make sure before you add anything more that denatured alcohol is completely dry, and then we'll go on to the next step. All right, she's dry, and we're going to put on our adhesion promoter. Okay, we want to cover the whole thing. All right, and just even strokes. Okay. These have a real nice fan spray on it. As you all well know, I am not painting in the kitchen. I've been kicked to the basement. So I'm doing this right here, right now, because the studio is a deep freeze. So we're going to do this, and we're going to let her dry. Okay. Give it about 15, and then we're going to put another coat on, and that'll be on to the priming. and we're using just your basic primer. I got True Value Hardware Store. Fast drying indoor, outdoor is what you want, and it's going to be gray because our paint job's going to be gray. So it doesn't matter what type of primer you use. I mean, I could use automotive primer on this, but who wants that expense, you know? So we're going to sit there and just use a decent primer, and then she'll be ready for the paint job. One thing you'll notice when you put the adhesion promoter on, it's just going to be a little bit sticky, and that's dry, and it's supposed to be that way. So you come along and said, okay, the glove is kind of, I mean, it's not horrible, but that is just your adhesion promoter helping to make sure when your primer goes on, it's not going anywhere. Also, one of the great things about using like a spray primer is it has a slight etching. It'll etch into the foam, and once she's on, she's not going anywhere. And that'll be great for your topical. What we're using for a topical is Conco. If you have a Menards anywhere in your location, or well, Menards is the best place I get it. Conco is paint that was developed in the 20s for the film industry, and Sherwin-Williams produces a version of it, and it gets sold mainly at Menards. I think you can get it at Sherwin-Williams if you try. It is an indoor-outdoor enamel. It is fantastic. It is actually meant for today for high-impact rental areas for less than desirable customers and renters. So it is fantastic for our application. Indoor, outdoor, doesn't matter, and it gives a really nice hard shell. Again, you also can go with micro dispersion 31. That is something you can get by rosebrand.com, and that can be added into the paint for an extra hard shell. Also, you can add in water-based polyurethane into your paint. That again will sit there and just make it nice and hard. We're going here, we like to do something that's going to last for a long time. This is an expensive adventure for making one of these things, and if we get her all painted up, we'll make sure she's going to last for years. So try to get the best materials possible. I mean, you don't have to break the bank, but we want to make sure that when this bad boy's out there and it's doing its job in a graveyard and a haunted house, that it's going to be there for a long time. So try to pick the best paints, and you're going to be thankful you did. If you go with cheapies and stuff like that, you may have problems with adherence and stuff. So we want to go with a nice, good, solid paint. So we're going to be ready to prime this thing in a few minutes. I'm just going to give it a little bit longer to dry, and then on to the priming. Here we are, ready to prime. Take your time when you're priming. We want to make sure everything gets touched. There's a lot of ins and outs in this, a lot of cut areas, so let's just take our time and stay in about, I don't know, 6-7 inches away. We're going to want to just little by little go over it along the edges. Okay. Don't get all frizzled that you see, maybe some pock marks, because she's going to hit some of this foam and get a little bubbly, but end result is you're going to have a nice piece. So and that just adds texture when we do our painting in the next steps. I'm just going to want to come along and just little by little do a nice coat. Okay, I'm going to turn it around again. We're wearing gloves. Don't want this on your hands either. In the area you just touched with your gloves, just come along and touch that up a little bit. Okay. All right. She is primed. Wait a few minutes, we might put a second coat on, and it's onto the painting. Okay. Our brusher is ready for paint. Primer's dry. I did not decide to put a second coat on. What was there is good enough. And so we're gonna mix up some gray with just a little bit of black in it, just for a darker coating. And so let's get to spraying. Alright, she is dry. We primed it, put 2 coats of the color on, and then we have allowed it to dry overnight, and she is ready to rock. Now keep in mind, I usually do 10 or 20 of these at a time. Since I made this one, we've made 12 more. We have another big one over there where I had a smaller piece and I just added some to it. So let's start our painting, and we are going to be dry brushing. Dry brushing, for some who don't know, sounds like what it's supposed to be. We're using small amounts of paints, and the brush is very dry, so we're not gacking it on there. And we're going to start working it. We're going for high spots. The goal is to make sure she does not look like, hi, I just whipped out the paintbrush and painted it. So I like to work it to accentuate high spots, leave the darkness down powdery rather than. So you put some on and then you just work it. Makes her look really sharp. It's got that dusty kind of rock cement formation. So we are going to keep on working it. It doesn't take long. What I do is I dip it into the paint and then I'll rub it off on the plastic here. And then very lightly, just using the tips of the bristles, come down here on the teeth, and of course our portion down here. Now once we get some down, I'll wipe this off even more, and then we're going to start working. Now I'm using an exterior enamel for this. We want to make sure that every portion of paint that we're using will survive indoors, outdoors, doesn't matter. So so this is a satin. Sometimes we might go gloss for certain reasons, but right now liking this. We're going to just work that. Now I have a can of paint I normally use for dry brushing. The thing has lasted me almost 3 years because you're using hardly any. We're just going for basically a big highlighting application. Kind of blend it on in there. Come along just grab some of the paint that's already on the plastic here. And we're gonna just hit all these really nice spots. And you'll see where the foam did some of those random air holes, and they just look so nice once you hit them with some paint. Okay, spin out here, get this bad boy. It's not a bad thing to have some lighter areas and darker areas. I want to get a little bit more paint on those bristles. The end result is a nice, rocky, nasty little skull. Some lighter areas on this side, and we have some really nice gooey areas here. We're great, and then we're just going to roll the brush very gently, trying to again accentuate all the high spots. That'll give a nice contrast for the areas where the bristles can't touch. Some of the areas where the paint might have built up, we're just going to come along and just kind of brush that out a little bit. Down in this crevice here. Nice.
Nice, I like that. That makes me very happy. I love piles of goo.
So, yeah. All right. There you go on that first one. Okay, again, I made 12 of them, so I'm going to keep on going. But here is your end result of a nice dry brushed, ready to go. She is ready for the graveyard. She is ready for wherever you want to place it. So I hope you enjoyed this video. Get out there and try it yourself. You can go with a solid black and do it with white, with a gray. It works well if you use different shades of brown, a dark brown, and then place a light brown over the top of it. Again, should be permanent to place outdoors. So we got a bunch of examples of this in the back of the video, plus a resource guide. And I really appreciate you guys watching. Subscribe if you can. Leave some comments. And we'll see you in the next video. I've been requested by some folks who've seen the last two videos to do some of those picture frames. And so that's on the list. To get hot, YouTube action for that. Thanks a lot for watching, and God bless.